For example, one TikTok can become a reel, an idea pin, a standard pin, a YouTube short, a feed post, IGTV video, Instagram story, TikTok story, and a live. It takes us about 2 hours per week to create enough content to generate over $100,000, sometimes multiple six figures in a month. And like I said, it only takes us 2 hours a week to create that content. So we have a very dialed in framework and process that allows us to create that volume of content in a very short amount of time and not have it take a lot in terms of delivery and energy and all of that good stuff. One of the best ways that you can do this is through content repurposing and really understanding how to get the best mileage out of every single piece of content that you have. So there's two ways that you can repurpose content. You've got the physical piece of content where you're taking like that actual video and repurposing it, or you have the concept that you're repurposing. And so this can go a variety of different ways. Either way, it's still saving you a ton of time. So, for example, one TikTok can become a reel, an idea pin, a standard pin, a YouTube short, a feed post, IGTV video, Instagram story, TikTok story, and a live, right? It can become all these different types of content. And then optionally, it could also become a Facebook post, LinkedIn, Twitter, podcast, email marketing, blog post, whatever platforms you post on. You could potentially get between 10 to 15 pieces of content out of a single concept. So like I said, you can repurpose in two different ways. You've got the physical content or you've got the content concept. So the way you can go about this is really in two different structures. You've got a micro production approach or a macro production approach. So with a micro, that's where we're creating like a single TikTok video and then we're repurposing from there. Whereas a macro approach is where we're creating a piece of long form content and then using that to be chopped up and created into a lot of different things. Now, the problem with a macro approach is that if you're not super good at creating content, you don't have your market research dialed in, you don't know exactly what buyer types you're speaking to, how to sell to them, how to phrase your content so that you are selling to the different buyer types, you don't know what your brand archetype is and how to align with those people in your audience. If you don't know exactly what to say to get people to buy from you, you're going to have a much harder time seeing conversions from a macro approach if you don't have all of those things dialed in. A micro approach is generally what we recommend for a newer business owner, for people that don't have as established marketing strategy and as good of an understanding when it comes to sales psychology and creating a really high value sales process through your content. If you're somebody who is already creating quite a bit of content for TikTok and you want to be able to 10x the amount that you're putting out without having to 10x the amount of time that you're spending, that can be a really good option for you to look at repurposing from a bigger piece, an overarching piece of content. There's a few softwares that we use or recommend to facilitate this, and we don't necessarily use all of these all at the same time. They're things that we have used or have recommended to clients or things that we've seen the clients use. So with that being said, the first one is repurpose.io. This is really good for like pulling a TikTok video and then also having it post to YouTube shorts and Instagram reels, for example. Now, a substitute for that, and currently what we're using, is Metricool. And so you can actually schedule to all platforms right off the bat. So rather than actually having it repurposed from one platform to another, you're just scheduling on all the different platforms. So you're able to have a little bit more specificity when it comes to the way you're curating that content for every platform to make sure that you're working within the confines of what those platforms like and what's going to help you perform the best based off of the algorithm and which platform you're posting on. The second thing is either Pinterest Scheduler or Tailwind. We are huge fans of Tailwind. We use it all the time. We've been using it for years. And this is where we take all of our content to repurpose to Pinterest. And so everything that we do just gets uploaded to Tailwind and then gets taken from there. And that does the work for us. And then we also use YouTube Scheduler for long form YouTube videos so that everything is ready to go live on the date it's supposed to facilitate the editing process, especially if you're going to be breaking up long form content into shorter form content, it can be really helpful to use something like Munch or a different AI tool that will automatically break down your longer form videos into the most engaging kind of chunks for short form content to go out on the different platforms. So that's a really easy way that you can go about that. Now, when you're repurposing and creating content that's going to be impactful across multiple different platforms, you really need to understand the difference between a nurturing platform and an outreach platform. So some platforms like Instagram are for nurturing. They're providing a lot of different avenues for you to have conversations and build connections with your audience. Whereas outreach platforms like TikTok or Pinterest, these are specifically more interest driven. So you're going to be reaching a lot more new people and bringing them into your audience, but it's a lot harder to nurture them there than it is on a place like Instagram. The next element of this is cross-platform traffic. So where you're creating and sprinkling this content out onto multiple platforms using a scheduler or something like that, you're repurposing the content so that it can be utilized in multiple different platforms and multiple different formats. You do want to also be leveraging this to generate cross-platform traffic so that you can take people, like I said, from those outreach platforms to those nurturing platforms. So an example of this that's really easy to drive that cross-platform traffic, say for example, you're posting a bite-sized piece out of a YouTube video on your Pinterest. Something that would be very impactful is to link from that short form video to the long form video on your YouTube so that they can go watch the entire video, be nurtured by you, consume more content, and then they're being pushed to an application or to your website, something like that. Another example is taking people from TikTok to Instagram. If you want to bring people from one platform to another, you simply have to give them a reason to want to go there. So if you're creating content around something on TikTok and you're giving them additional information, or they're able to ask questions by going into your DMs, right? Having call to actions like that, where you're starting these different conversations on that nurturing platform, is going to push those people from one platform to another so that you can be really impactful with the way that you are having those sales conversations and nurturing your audience. So if you follow kind of this process that we've laid out, you should be able to really only spend an hour a week on ideation and editing, and then another hour on actually filming. You'll have an abundance of content that should be infused with sales psychology. And that's also why we do the annual content plan, so that you know exactly what you're doing for literally the rest of the year. It's super honed in on what your audience needs to hear from you to actually make a sale, make a purchase decision. But then you're able to facilitate that in very small amounts of time every single week because it's pre-planned, it's ready to go, and all you have to do is film, edit, and schedule. If this video was helpful for you, be sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video. You guys know what to do. And if you have any questions, be sure to DM me on Instagram. I love talking about this stuff. My DMs are always open. And you can also head over there to see how we put a lot of this strategy into action on our own social media.